am excited. I always say that. The reason being why I say that is because young people on this show bring amazing stories of significance, stories that they have done with their lives to ignite your lives. I am honored to have on Warsan Hagi-Yusuf. She's here to share with you her story and passion about things that is going to rock your boat, things that are happening within the world, things that she's passionate about that she's going to share with you. And it's a pretty touching subject that needs to be in the limelight at all times. And I can't say enough about it. So I'm going to leave it to this beautiful young lady to share with you. Welcome, Warsan. Welcome, honey.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, finally, finally. Oh my God. You know, it's been a long road doing this show. And when your story came to me, it's something that we've covered before. And the viewers are probably looking at him and say, okay, what is she talking about? But we're going to get through it. But before we do, I know about you, sweetie, but I want the viewers to know about you. So if you can introduce yourself, and then we can take the conversation from there.
Okay. So hello, everybody. My name is Warsan Hagi-Yusuf. I'm currently a Master's of Social Work candidate at York University. I'm passionate about community development, sports for development, advocacy, and social justice. In the past, I started a nonprofit initiative called SYS, which allows youth to transition from high school to post-secondary education by providing them support. I've also worked alongside the Black Youth Fellowship and just recently had a Heal Her event, which focused on the importance of mental health and invited Black women who are professionals in the mental health to really talk about their experiences through a lunch and learn session. Right now, I'm actually developing research surrounding sports for development, and I'm really passionate on using sports and physical activity as a way to really help youth get through their barriers and unlock their potential.
All right. I love when I have my guests take every single segment and roll it into number one. No, I really do. That's awesome, because now the viewers know a little bit about you, but now we're going to dissect it. Now we're going to break it down, honey. So you and I met through LinkedIn.
Yes.
Correct. Right. And I'd like you to share with the viewers, because I'm very, very proud of our show here at Rogers TV. I'm proud of what we put out, because it's informative and it's needed. But your feedback when you and I connected was really touching what you said. So if you can just tell the viewers how we met, not from me, from you, because this is your story.
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm really passionate about sports for development. I'm always looking for organizations or agencies that are kind of championing the same message that I do through my own nonprofit initiative. So when I stumbled across your interviews surrounding Raptors professionals such as Courtney and Jenna Dine, I really was captivated by their stories. And as someone who's interested for sports for development, I'm always looking at agencies or organizations that kind of support that message and the work I do in my community. So just listening into that conversation in the podcast episode, it was really, really important for me to kind of listen and learn, as I want to be in the sport and development field. And those are people who really champion that message and are doing the work that I strive to do one day.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. The reason why I wanted you to say that is because we hear from our viewers, but it's always nice when it's on a show. So we're going to brand this. So thank you so, so much. So when I reached out to you, your story really, really touched me, because you want to use what you're studying with York University now to create change. So if I can go back now, where were you born?
So I was born in Canada, actually. I was born in Mississauga.
Okay. Yeah. And have you always lived in Mississauga? Have you always lived there?
Yep. So I lived in Mississauga, then moved to Brampton in my schooling years. So I've been in Brampton. I'm currently in Brampton right now as we film this. So in the Peel region.
All righty, hon.
Yeah.
Now, what are you taking at York University?
So I initially studied social work as my undergrad, and then I decided to continue my education and focus on a research topic. So that really motivated me to sign up to do my master's at York University as well in social work.
All right. So why social work? I want to delve into it a little bit more, and then we can bring it out and apply it to everything that you're doing with the sports.
Yeah, for sure. Social work. Why social work? So to start off with, my mom studied social work at York University as well.
Okay.
So growing up, I would see her go to classes, and I would always kind of sit or tag along with her to classes. And at that time, I knew that I really enjoyed the atmosphere and the conversations going in, but I was really too young to really understand the deeper meaning to it.
Hmm.
So as I was in high school looking to choose my program for my post-secondary education, I realized that I wanted to support my community and youth in my community. And I knew I was very passionate about community for development, sports for development. So I was really passionate about community work. So that really led me to apply for social work because it's such a broad career and you can work in any department or organization, but it's also rooted in that social justice and it's always rooted in helping others. And those are two things that really resonate with me. So that's what initially brought me in to do my undergrad. And then as I began to learn different theories and like ideologies in the program, I began to fall in love with it a little bit more, which encouraged me to sign up to do my master's in social work as well.
All right, hon. Why sports? I love sports. I'm a Raptors fan.
Yeah.
I love football. I love soccer. I don't love cricket, but I love all those other ones. Okay. But when you look at it, why is sports when you look at sports, why is it that you look at it as being something that can be used in a community with communication, embracing change,
Yeah, for sure.
positivity?
Yeah. So I think sports is one of those unique things where it's you're put on a team or you're playing individual sports, but it teaches youth at a young age discipline. It teaches them how to set goals, shows them the true value of hard work. But I think sports, connecting it with sports for development, it's a great tool to really achieve social, sustainable change. It brings youth together to achieve a common goal. You can also encourage youth to really go to school and use sports as a way to enter school. So for someone who's really passionate about education, and that was the real foundation for my initiative with SYS. I wanted to combine education and sports. Those are two great qualities that youth are really attracted to, but they just sometimes need that extra support to really get to where they want to be. So I think sports really shows the true value of hard work and it's fun. Youth love fun things, so it's a great way to get youth involved.
Okay. Did you play any sports when you were in high school?
Yeah, for sure. So I played all types of sports. I honestly I love basketball the most, but I signed up for almost every team. I played soccer and basketball, but for sure basketball is probably my favorite sport.
So how did that help you? How did that help you become the person you are? What did you get out of the sports? Because I truly believe that it can help people with just their character themselves, self-esteem, confidence, everything.
I think sports is a great way to just even get to know yourself better. I think a lot of the times you may lose a game or you may win one. It's just kind of going with the flow, trusting yourself, trust the process. And it taught me a lot about discipline, hard work. It taught me the true value of sticking to a goal, working towards it. And it also gave me some great opportunity to meet a lot of amazing people along the way. I think sports is such a middle ground for so many people, whether it's watching a game or playing a game. It's a great way to meet people and allows you to network. It allows you to make great relationships within the community. And for me, it allowed me to really start my own initiative and build on those relationships that I had in the past to really support me in starting my initiative.
All right, hon. Now, do you have any siblings at all?
Yes, I do. I have an older brother and older sister.
Okay, and what are they doing?
So my brother works in business. He also went to York University.
Okay.
And my sister is currently in law school, and she's also a York University alumni.
All right. So who has been your strong mentors in your life? I ask these questions all the time, as you've known, you've seen the shows. And the reason why I touch upon it is because it's imperative for you to know they're listening, but they need mentors to guide them. So who has been your mentors in your life, hon, throughout your journey?
So for sure, my parents are a huge mentor, as I mentioned earlier. Um, Initially, the main reason why I wanted to go into social work was because I saw my mom going to social work classes. So it was my goal to actually go to the same university as her, same program. So it's kind of a full circle moment. My father as well. He used to play sports with me all the time growing up. So he really taught me the true value of hard work and ethics, as long as along with my mom as well, who also shared the same values. They definitely instilled that at a young age with me and my siblings. So I'm very grateful for that.
All righty, hon. Throughout your conversation at the beginning, you said education is important. You take it very, don't quote my words here, but you take it to heart.
Yeah.
It's valuable to have. Why is it valuable? Because a lot of youth, some of them don't take it valuable. They don't believe that they don't need it, or it's too hard, and they don't realize it creates knowledge and wisdom. So from your words, Warsan.
So education has always been something that was really important to me at a young age. I went to a school where I had the amazing teachers trying to support me through the way, trying to make sure that I excel. In my high school years, I realized that many of my peers were not turning to post-secondary education as their choice. I think one of the main problems that stem from that is due to the lack of accessibility in many of these post-secondary education programs, not knowing how to apply. Many people are the first people in their family to go to university or college. So I saw a need in that. But as well, I was signing up with them along that process. So I wanted to try to find a way to kind of be a support system and also walk them through the process during the time that I was as well. So at that time, I created my initiative and I reached out to different agencies, and Canada Service Corps, done through Social Development Canada, reached out to me and gave me grants to kind of support my initiative and rent out spaces such as libraries, recreation centers that allowed me to really have like a safe haven to use sports, but also use it as a time to really talk about, oh, how do you fill a university application? How do you apply for scholarships? How do you network? These are all things that are often pushed under the rug, but are so helpful when it comes to the process of going to post-secondary education.
I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of youth, when they're starting, a lot of them have come on the show, Future Prospects, they say the process, it's such a huge thing to digest. It's so hard to kind of get through on that. I want to ask you a couple more questions, but I know the minutes are flying because I'm watching the clock. So what I am going to do, I'm going to digress. We're going to come back and we're going to continue this wonderful conversation with Warsan Hagi-Yusuf. We'll be right back, guys. Welcome back to Future Prospects with Warsan Hagi-Yusuf. Phenomenal segment one, hon. Love those pearls of wisdom about sports, how we can apply it to our lives, navigating through university, all the paperwork, and that's why we have this show, Future Prospects, here at Rogers TV. So that was phenomenal, hon. Now in this segment, we're going to show some pictures that you are so sweet enough to share with us on your invite there at the House of Commons. So tell us, my love, and share with the viewers, what was that all about?
So in 2018, I wanted to get more involved in the policymaking process. I stumbled across an application for a program called OLIP, which teaches university students more about the policymaking process and take them through a mock model parliament. And through the process, you get to learn how to write a bill, you get to network with people in the policymaking field, and you get to work alongside MPPs and other future prospects and different people who are interested in the policymaking process. So at that time, I've never really been exposed to that type of work. So I was so eager to learn, and I signed up and I got accepted to the program. So I went through like an 8-month process of weekly meetings and learning how to pass bills. And the final assignment of that whole program was to actually speak at the House of Commons and go through a day pretending like you're an MPP, kind of like a mock model parliament and passing bills and such. And you got to talk about topics that really affect you. So during that time, I believe I talked about the importance of environment and such things like that, and talking about the importance of having a clean Ontario and getting rid of rechargeable batteries. That was my goal at that time. I was looking on a really green approach. But that was kind of like a crash course on how to get in the policymaking process, how to pass bills through the legislator. And it was a really important experience that I'll always cherish.
Okay, reel it back a bit. When you, okay, how do I say this? Because I've been in the House of Commons and I know what that's like. But you being a student there, how did it feel that you were in there? I want you to share this with the viewers because there's a lot of little mini politicians out there that want to get into that place. So if you can share with us, what was that like?
It was an amazing experience. I went in not knowing much about the political process,
Mm-hmm.
and I left knowing almost everything. There's still more to learn, but I wasn't afraid to ask questions. I think me entering as a social work major brought me in a unique position. I was with a lot of people who were studying political science and were interested about politics. I was just a social work student looking to know the ins and the outs.
Right.
So really getting into the House of Commons and going through the political process and writing a bill, drafting speeches, networking with fellow politicians and different stakeholders was really the best crash course that I could have done on how to really understand the political process, especially someone coming in with not the most experience.
Okay, because I hear a lot of bills, a lot of things that, the government puts out.
Yeah.
What did you learn about writing a bill and the importance of a bill? Because you can stand there and you can protest and do anything, but if you don't put it out in a bill form where it's there, why is that? If you can just break that down for us.
I think one thing that stuck out to me when it comes to bills is how important it is to really engage in the voting process as well.
Right.
During the bill writing process, I had a team that I was working alongside with. We never met. We were doing everything virtual, even before COVID. And we were all coming in with so many different ideas. And it was a lot of clashing, it was a lot of debating. And it just really it made me feel as if to really be involved in the political process and have your voice heard, it's really important to vote people in who reflect similar viewpoints that you have, as well as understanding that bills take a long time to go. So right now I'm in a Black Youth Fellowship and I'm working inside a counselor's office in Toronto. And I'm learning more about that political process and learning how it's an entire team working behind a counselor and writing letters and reaching out to your local politician is really important to really get your voice heard in those bills, because that one letter can change their perspective and their opinion towards how they debate that bill, the questions they ask regarding it. It's just so important to have your voice heard, even if you aren't even able to vote. So I think that's just getting involved and doing what you can.
Okay, I'm going to back you up for a second here. When you say not be able to vote, everybody can vote though, right?
I think for sure, you have to be at least 18 years old to vote. Okay. You have to be an adult. So for youth, I see a lot of youth activism on social media, and youth are always the ones protesting, and that's so amazing. They're getting their voices heard. And for sure that impacts the political process. But if you're a youth looking to get involved, it's always great to send letters and use social media and keep doing what you're doing until you're able to vote and really engage in that political process as a voter.
Okay, hon. Now you started the Black Youth Fellowship. You're part of this initiative. Okay. I'm going to get into some questions here. And if you don't mind the answer, because it's the only way I'm going to say, if you're going to talk, let's talk. All right. Because there's a lot of things that are happening within the world now since COVID. I must say, it's like COVID just opened up this Pandora's box. Yeah. And everybody wants to talk and address things that is still here. So why are you part of this? Why are you part of it? From your words, hon, please.
For sure. So the Black Youth Fellowship came in light of everything that happened last summer. Black Lives Matter. There's a need for Black individuals or voices to be heard in these spaces. And there's a huge underrepresentation of Black politicians, Black people in leadership positions. So this Black Youth Fellowship is done by an organization looking to really address that gap. And there's 10 fellows all interested in learning more about policy and the political process and getting their voices and their communities heard. So what the job is, basically, you work alongside a counselor for 3 months and you get a crash course of everything going on in the office, whether it's writing minutes, creating policy drafts, shadowing them in meetings, learning more about the political process. And what I really love about this fellowship is I had the opportunity, they gave me funding, they gave me enough money to create an event of my own interest. So take all that knowledge I learned in the counselor's office and make my own event. So I created a Heal Her event which focused on mental health for Black women during the pandemic. So I used my experience working in the counselor's office and really reaching out to constituents in the area and got some amazing panelists, and it was a great event.
Okay, what panelists did you have? Tell us, come on, share, because a lot of youth out there are doing a lot of great things to create change. Come on, let's go.
For sure. So starters, we had a wonderful woman. Her name is Ajabo Muhammad, and she is a mental health advocate. She comes from a social work background as well. So she was one of the panelists. We had Angela Oma, which is the founder of Hey Black Girl, an initiative used to support Black women on social media. They do podcasts, they do meditation sessions. They really focus on a range of scope of things. So if you want to check them out, it's at heyblackgirl.ca, I believe. And then we had Mariah Smith, who is a media graduate. She does documentaries surrounding colorism, and she just recently directed a documentary called Saturn Returns. And we had Mamie Day. She's studying human rights and equity, and she shared her experience and the historical background on why events like this really matter.
All right. We're going to delve deeper here because I love it. I love to go to the core. I really, really do. Doing this. Okay, how do I say this? Just bear with me for a second. From your perspective, and you're going to say, Joe, I've already said it, but I'm going to dig it. I'm going to go for it. Do you feel that there's still a problem here in Canada with racism?
Absolutely. I think there is a huge problem with racism. And I think it impacts a wide scope when you look at intersectionality and see people with hyphenated identities and see how that meshes together. There is definitely a huge problem with racism in Canada, for sure.
Okay, can you break it down a little bit more? Any experience that you have dealt with, Warsan?
For sure. When you look at, I'll use myself as an example. I am Black, I am Muslim, I'm a woman. That's already a huge red flag for many. I think my identity in itself, many people may look at it as I'm marginalized, I am a part of a vulnerable population. Although that may be true on paper and such, I definitely love my identity. And I think it's something that kind of grants me a superpower. I'm able to understand all these different lived experiences through myself. And I definitely love the skin I'm in and I love who I am. And when you look at racism and how it impacts, you always have to do the work to as well as educate others, but also protect yourself at the same time and understand that it is a draining process and putting your own mental health first and just working through it and understanding that you have to love the skin that you're in and just embrace who you are as a whole.
Wow. Holy cow. I don't want to miss any. I want to keep on this for a second here. I had a conversation with someone that can't see on air right now, but I had a conversation last night with a person, and they were saying that you can't keep talking about racism. You can't keep talking about it. You got to start talking about as one, as humanity. We can't keep saying Black, white, Asian, Muslim, whatever. We got to start saying humans, because what they were saying in their own words, it's not there. It's not, we don't have it here. It's not here. It's something that, it's just not here. Am I wrong? Like, I want you to just share that with me, because it got pretty heated. But at the same time, I was standing my ground saying it is here. It's just something that is underlying, but right now it's raising up, and young people especially are not going to stand for it.
For sure. I think oftentimes when individuals may take that approach saying, look at us as one, like humanity, I think that very much colorblindness approach homogenizes the experiences of others. And by being silent, it's in itself very violent and ignoring the true realities of people who really face those issues. So I think more than anything, it's so important to talk about it and bring power to the people and really embrace the experiences that people are doing. Because if you end up disregarding it and just lumping it together as one and homogenizing all the experiences, then the problem itself will truly never be addressed. It's more as if kind of sweeping it under the rug. I think sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable. I think you have to kind of sit in that discomfort and just work through it. And that's how the true education and learning really does happen.
Do you have hope for the future? Do you have hope for the future?
Yeah, for sure. I always have hope in the future. I think that there's so many amazing things going on right now, and I see it within my community work, within the work that I do with the Heal Her event. I'm always motivated and inspired by other people's stories and their lessons that they learned along the way. So I definitely have hope for the future.
Now I'm going to ask you this really, really fast before we go, and I can do it really, really fast, okay? I always ask at the end of the show. Looking at yourself in the mirror as a beautiful young woman, beautiful Black woman, and I have to say that today because that's the way it is. But what do you love about yourself? Real fast, honey. When you look at yourself.
I think I love that I'm confident in the skin I'm in, and I'm willing to always ask questions. I'm willing to learn, and I'm always open to change as well. So I definitely love the skin I'm in. I love my lived experience, and that's definitely something that I always stick with me.
Wow, you say that straight out. And on that note, we're going to come right back with Warsan Hagi-Yusuf. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Future Prospects with Warsan Hagi-Yusuf. Warsan, you know what I love about you? And you're going to say what?
What?
Okay, it's your smile, but most importantly is that you're bold and you speak very, very well.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No, very, very well, hon. And you reach the heart. Because when we digress from the show there for break, I was writing down some notes and I was trying to capture everything that I want to capture in this show, right, my love?
Yeah.
I want to touch upon something. And you mentioned in the last segment about marginalized communities and being comfortable in your skin. Doesn't, you know, how do I say this? And I'm saying it very, very tactfully, is that I'm a Black woman and I'm comfortable in my skin. But sometimes right now with what's going on and happening within Canada, it's not that you are not you're not scared of being who you are, but it plays upon your mental mind sometimes. And we've had on guests before, Kwasi Abdu Poku. We've had on Trish Peters that has covered this way before what happened right now. But if you can just embrace upon that, I'd really love you to do that, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So when it comes to the mental health aspect and dealing with all this racism as well, it does play a huge role. It plays a significant role. And that's what I noticed for myself, especially with everything going on last year. You open your phone, you're bombarded by images and a lot is going on. And it's very disheartening to see. And it's very important to take care of your mental health and do some self-care activities as well to really support yourself when dealing with this. So when it comes to the Black Youth Fellowship, this was something that was really heavy on my heart throughout the entire process. The fellowship encouraged us to be super open and do what we want and be very passionate and work and do a project that reflects who you are. And that's why it was so important for me to create an event called Heal Her, where we only focused on the mental health aspect and dealing through that and engaging in self-care activities. And that's why it's so important to build a network and have initiatives and organizations similar to what the Heal Her project does, where you invite professionals who have been already doing work in the field, and that is their profession, to enlighten and support young girls and young men dealing through these things. I think it's so important to have a network. It's so important to have mentors. And it's also important to sometimes log off if it's too heavy and it's a lot. So I think the importance of creating events like Heal Her, where you really work with mental health professionals and sit in and listen and learn, I think it's a great way to kind of combat that feeling and really support your mental health.
All right, I'm going to ask you something else now. For you putting this initiative together and working with it, okay, have you ever done a focus group where you have spoken to individuals that have dealt with racism, to put it more in your bill? Like, more questions, more, you know what I mean? Like more fundamentals. It makes it more stronger. Have you done that at all?
Yeah, for sure. I think in my initiative for SYS, I had the opportunity. I was only working with Black youth for that specific initiative, and I got to really sit down with them and talk about how can we empower ourselves and how can we save ourselves, and we can do it within ourselves. Everything that we have is from within. So I definitely think that having those conversations and bringing that lived experience, and I was invited to speak at University of Toronto's Global Ideas Institute, where I got to speak to youth, high school specifically, about my experience in starting my Sports for Development initiative that promotes education, but I didn't shy away on why there's a huge problem for accessibility to education. I think it's very important to kind of reach a demographic that you want to work with, especially if you come from it.
Okay, why do you say accessibility? Accessibility to education. We talked about this. I want you to go for it, honey, because go.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think when you look at like institutions such as post-secondary education, there's a lot of barriers. When you look at financial, when you look at if someone is a first in their family to enter post-secondary education, and there's so many statistics showing that there are groups that are disproportionately underrepresented within post-secondary education. So I definitely think there is a huge access issue. Even myself, I wasn't the first person in my family to enter post-secondary education. And it was definitely an uphill battle just navigating through the process. So I think imagine somebody who doesn't have the resources or someone to ask going through that process alone. It's only going to cause obstacles and you're not being set up for success. So I think creating initiatives similar to my SYS and Heal Her event and other projects, I know there are so many grassroots organizations doing the work. Having initiatives and organizations that support youth, specifically when entering post-secondary education, is so important.
Okay, are you saying youths or are you saying Black youths?
Black youth specifically, yeah.
But why? Warsan? We're in Canada here. We're in Canada. We're in Canada. Yeah. We're not in America. We're in Canada.
Yeah.
So why is this? Like why? Why?
For sure. I think when you look at our community, it's very important to really use education and use that as a tool to really empower ourselves and empower Black youth specifically. When you look at even, for example, I'm a social work major, so I've done so many work on the overrepresentation, the underrepresentation of youth and post-secondary, Black youth specifically in post-secondary education, and why that is. And there's so many barriers, whether you're in high school, I can even speak from experience where you have
please.
Guidance counselors suggesting, oh, maybe you should take the applied instead of the academic courses. Just little gestures like that where you have everything, it's inside of you, but having someone or a professional tell you maybe you should do something else at a young age when you're very impressionable, it's so disheartening sometimes to hear the stories from youth specifically thinking this wasn't achievable, this couldn't have happened to me. But you just need that mentoring and you need that support and you need people to trust in you and trust in these youth as well. So that's why it was so important for me to bring together something that I love, like sports, and
yes,
as well as education. Create a way, I'll book a rec center if we go to the library before. Stuff like that, where having government support and getting grants from the government to do that really helped that process. But for sure, I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed. And I think there's so many organizations doing the groundwork, similar to myself. So I definitely encourage everybody to just keep going and trust the process.
Okay, hon. So what made you forge through? What made you go, you know something? I'm not going to be applied. I'm going to be academic. And I'm going to be a serious change maker. So what made you forge through, hon? Tell the viewers what made you forge through.
I think I definitely believed in myself, and I'm a very competitive person. So when I hear somebody say, oh, I definitely think you should do this, when I had my mind set on something else, I will definitely do the opposite. And stories like that happened so long ago. And I still remember that moment today because it really lit something under me, which was to be what they say I can't be and work through that and really prove myself. And it's not that I was trying to really prove that to others. I knew I always had it within myself. It's just a matter of just showing it through my success and what I do.
How did you know that you had it inside of you, though? How did you know that you had it already inside of you?
I think when you enter these spaces, I think everybody always knows what they want truly within themselves, and they're just looking for support. So when you go
Yes.
ask support for like a school guidance counselor, what course should I take? And when they already have what they want, you kind of know what you want when you enter the space. You're just looking
Yeah,
for someone to reaffirm that.
that's
So
right.
when you don't hear that, like you
Oh,
definitely think, oh, is this for me? But just sticking to yourself and believing in that and like bet on yourself every time. Bet on yourself. I always say that all the time because you'll regret if what you didn't do is stick to your word and then it goes the opposite way. You don't want to have that regret. So it's definitely always bet on yourself and believe in yourself.
oh my God. I love this. I really, really do. Because it's coming from your soul. And
Yeah.
most importantly, now youth need to hear this of all the stuff that's happening. They really, really need to know that there's a world that they can live in. It's their world
Yeah.
and what they can do with themselves. You were part of Black Lives Matter March. There's some pictures that we're going to share. Why did you want to be part of that march? Why?
Yeah, for sure. I think we're dealing definitely with two pandemics, COVID-19 and anti-Black racism. So I think when
Wow. Back it up,
everything,
back it up, back it up, back it up. What did you just say there? Say that again. We're dealing with how many pandemics?
I would say we're dealing with two pandemics currently.
Okay, can you say them
Yeah.
again, please?
So definitely there's a huge COVID-19 pandemic, but we're also dealing with anti-Black racism. So I
Okay.
definitely think it's always important if you can to be there and have your voice heard. And I think there's powers in numbers. So that's definitely something that is always passionate to me.
Okay, how was it like being in that march? What was that like when you were standing there for change? Like you see it Mandela, you see Martin Luther King, you see many, many people that have walked. I can't believe that you see it on TV, but now we're seeing it now more than ever. How did you feel, sweetheart?
So, like, it's great that you mentioned Nelson Mandela. There's a quote that I always say, there's
Yes.
no passion to be found playing small. So I think just being there physically makes a difference. Like I said earlier, there's power in numbers. Being around people who you know require support as well as yourself, you always need support. So just being a part of that change, because I know in a couple of years we'll look back at that moment and we'll say that was extremely powerful. How we had so many people outside during a pandemic as well, fighting for a change.
Okay. Will you do it again if they ever do it again?
For sure. For sure, I'll always do it. I think it's definitely something that is near and dear to my heart. So I'll definitely always support the Black Lives Matter movement.
Wow. When you look at the youth today, your peers, what do you see? What do you see when you look at them? I see a driving force that is not sitting down, because there's not only Black people within those marches, there's many, many different other races. And that's what I love, because that's showing some unity, that we are not standing for that human being over there to be treated different. So if you can brace on that for me.
Yeah, for sure. So when I see our youth today, I definitely see so much potential. And
Yes.
I learn so much from my peers. I'm always willing to learn. So just hearing their stories and hearing what they came from and what they're doing for their communities is always inspiring for me. I see change makers, I see people who are passionate, I see people who want to make a change and have that desire to do so. And I definitely think there will be a lot of change coming from the youth.
But when I look at you, I can see you in the House of Commons there. I can see you when you get your masters, like, God help them, because you are not going to be holding back, honey, right? You're not going to hold back. You're going to fight for every single thing that you want. The next question I ask is going to be longer. It is going to be long, and I don't want to take away from it in this segment. So again, I'm going to digress. I'm going to come back with you, sweetheart, but you're doing a phenomenal job, and I thank you from my heart. We'll be right back, guys, with Warsan Hagi-Yusuf. Stay tuned. Welcome back with Warsan Hagi-Yusuf. Warsan, what can I say? What can I say? Like, that was amazing, hon. You spoke from your soul. You really, really did. It's a heavy subject, but it has to be spoken. It has to be talked about, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, honey. So now we're going to talk about something else that you're really passionate about, sports. The next chapter, what you're going to do. You're going to school. You're taking your master's in September, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So why are you going for your master's, hon? Why are you going? Oh, what university? Just remind us again.
York University.
Okay. So why are you going for your master's?
So initially when I entered my undergraduate as a social work major, I didn't know much about the field. I just knew I wanted to help others, and that was my main focus. And then I began to fall in love with the whole ideologies, different ways to practice, working in the field a little bit, really helped me and reinforced the idea that I want to continue doing my education. And one thing that's really passionate, that I'm really passionate about is sports for development. And I know that if I did my master's, I would have the opportunity to conduct my own thesis on a topic that's very important to me. So I thought it was a great opportunity to kind of contribute and add to the research surrounding sports for development and bring my lived experience, starting my own initiative and different things I've done in my community, and back it up with some research and really be supported by my university and publish that research. So that was my driving, motivating force to really enter my post-secondary and to do my master's. Yeah.
All right, honey. So what type of stuff have you done already previously in your community around sports?
For sure. So I think the biggest thing I've done in my community surrounding sports was my initiative. My initiative was to promote education, but I use sport for development tactics to really do that. I received funding from Canada Service Corps, which is through Social Development Canada, to give me funding to book out recreation spaces, book out rooms in libraries and such, to invite youth in my community to really go through the whole process. So we would have like library sessions where we would have a speaker come in showing how to fill out a university application. And then after that, later that evening, I would have like a basketball court booked out already or a soccer field booked out, just something that they could do after is kind of a little bit of a reward. And I think when you look at programming, I think it's very important to understand your demographic. Youth are so young, and we don't want to be sitting down for long periods of time kind of being lectured at. So right. Creating a way to bring them in the classroom, I guess you could say, the first way, and then having a reward after, which is a great way to teach different life skills, is like the perfect combination for me.
When you look at what you're doing now, how do I say this? You start within your community, right? So when you look at your community, which is Brampton, Mississauga?
Yeah, the Peel region area, yeah.
Peel region, okay, sorry. Peel region, okay. When you look at it in a whole, I've heard this before from other conversations that I've had, okay, with other youth. What is lacking there, though? Why you're doing that? Like, it sounds like repeat pizza, but I want to educate the viewers again within that area, because a lot of them are leaving and coming down to the rural areas. So I live in Alliston, and there's a lot of Brampton, Mississauga coming into Alliston, and it's great. It's awesome. It's creating culture. It's creating great things for people that are living here. But what is lacking there that you want to input, that the youth are struggling with? What?
Yeah, for sure. I think when you look at Brampton as a whole, we have a huge population of youth, and we have a lot of high schools, elementary schools, and we have a lot of resources. But when you have that big of a demographic, you'll need a lot more. Specifically having more organizations supporting youth in the area. And that's why I thought it was so important for me to create my own initiative, because sometimes it's so easy to talk about the problem. Oh, we're missing this. Oh, we need this. But I think taking that feedback and kind of bringing in your own experience, saying, hey, I'm in high school and I don't know how to fill out a university application, and saying, now that I know this information, how can I show others? So kind of creating your own organization or your own initiative or your own project. But I think when you look at that, it's so important to look for support. For example, for myself, I received support from the federal government through funding. It wasn't done through like any city or anything. So just always keeping your eyes peeled at different agencies and different organizations that want to support you through that process once creating your own initiative.
Was it hard to get funding though? Because I hear it's a lot of paperwork you got to fill out, like a lot. So people say, okay, you can go for funding, you can go for grants. Well, you know, something, you'd be there to New Year's Eve filling out those things. So, you know, how was that like?
It was hard. And I think it's one of those things where I filled out countless applications and I only heard back from one, but one was enough to do like what I wanted to do. So it's just having that time, even having time to sit down and having like access to a computer, having access to people who've done it before, just having that support and applying. So I've probably applied for like over 50 and I've only heard back from one. But that was the only one that I really needed to do this work. So it's just putting yourself out there and don't be afraid to recycle an application if it's the same story. Just learning how to differentiate different applications and move your stuff around to really speak towards the initiative that you're doing. So just kind of selling yourself and selling your initiative to different stakeholders, that skill is so important.
Okay, counsel. Have you approached your counselors there in regards to supporting you and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely right now I'm working in City of Toronto, in a counselor's office. But when I was doing my work in Brampton initially, when I was doing the whole House of Commons work, they actually helped support you. So I had networks that I was speaking to for like 8 months throughout the entire process. And they would give me advice and they would tell me, oh, this is how you do things, answer questions that I had. So I definitely think just putting yourself towards opportunities, even if you are uncomfortable. I had no idea when I entered these spaces, but not being afraid to ask a question is the most important thing because it's all a learning process.
But were you ever afraid though, Warsan? Like, you're amazing. You really are, huh? Like, you're a trooper. But were you ever afraid sometimes where you were alone? Like, I'm going to challenge you for a little minute. Like, you say, oh my God, is this going to work? Like, you know, what am I doing? Like, is this going to make it? Like, am I crazy? Like, oh my God, mountain's too big. Like, if you ever had those doubts, like, you know, in moving forward with such great things that you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think I even still to this day, like I have little fears like, oh, should I try out for this opportunity? Should I throw my name in the hat? But I think even hearing no's is like a great way to learn something as well. And that kind of brings it back to sports. You might not always win a game, but what can you lose? What can you learn from the ones that you lost? And just not being afraid to fail and using that fear of failure and that fear of entering things that you've never done as motivation and as fuel to get past that dark tunnel. And hopefully one of the ideas or things that you do will stick, and that will be the one that matters.
Awesome, hon. One of the quotes, I got to sneak down here at my notes, that you mentioned in the information that I asked you to provide for this show was Van Fleet. Be on yourself. Bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself. I got the T. Sorry, folks. Bet on yourself. Okay. Why is that important to you? Why did you choose that one?
So I think it really reflects everything I've ever gone through. I think a lot of times when you have doubts within your capabilities or you're questioning, is this the right thing for me to do? Should I do this initiative? Should I try out for this opportunity? Should I go for a job that I may not think I'm qualified for? Things like that. And you just have to bet on yourself and say, I'm going to put my best foot forward. Whatever happens, happens. Trust the process. And I think betting on yourself is always a great thing to do because you are your own champion and you can do what you put your mind to. Even if you hear a couple of no's, you'll learn something from it. And one day you'll hear a yes. So just always bet on yourself and don't ever put doubts or fears on your dreams.
Wow. Oh my God. You got to do a quote book. You got to do something. I don't know. You got to do something. You start with your future prospects first. All right. You've got some great initiatives. You're starting within your community. Do you want to take it outside of your community? Do you want to embrace other communities with what you're doing?
For sure. So right now, my initiative, I'm really focused on educating myself on ways I can make it better. So I did this when I was in my undergraduate, and I've grown so much since it started. So right now, I'm looking for different ways to really take it to that next level. And one thing I'm really doing is through my education, I'm trying to learn different things that work for sports and development. listening to your podcast, hearing people who work in the sport industries, what they did, what they learned from their experiences, and learning from others. And I have goals that I set for myself. So I want to work for an organization that really champions the message for sports for development. I think that's something that I'm so passionate about. So I'll continue doing the groundwork, do my own grassroots initiatives and projects, and hopefully one day I will align with my own purpose and continue really working in that sports for development field with that research that I created.
Wow, hon. Networking. I know you said you networked. And I'm going to say this because it's very important, really, really important to network. Why is it important to network? Because when you connect with people by just opening up your mouth and talking about yourself and what you're passionate about, it's amazing. Well, they'll say, oh my gosh, they'll watch you on the show and they'll go, we got to get a hold of that girl. We got to support her initiative. So why is that so important, hon, to network?
So I think networking was a skill that I wasn't always comfortable with. I've always been somewhat of a shy person. I don't want to reach out first. But when you're working in a field, specifically trying to serve communities and serve a youth, you need to network and you need to reach out to people who are already doing the work that you want to be doing and learn from their experiences. So whether it be like asking to meet for coffee or sending a message like we did on LinkedIn.
That's
earlier last week. Yeah, that's a perfect way to network, because I think based on my experience, when I get a message, I'm always so inspired by the other person and their journey. And there's always something to learn, and there's so much value to be done through networking and just making that connection, even if it's virtual right now during COVID.
Oh my God, we're coming back to normalcy real soon. It touched me because even when we connected, I didn't even know you were watching the show. Yeah. I just reached out to you because of what you were doing. And I wasn't, you connected when you told me, I've been following your shows, watching your shows. I went, holy crow. No, it really did. It really, really touched me, because that's why we work so hard here at Future Prospects Rogers Television soon to give this information out, sweetheart. So we're coming to the last end of the show. Okay. And I want you to leave the viewers with your sentence or word of wisdom, please.
Ooh. Oh, that's a hard one. Let me think.
No, it's not. You can do it. You got 5 seconds. Let's go.
I would just say to listeners or viewers, trust yourself, trust the process, and believe in yourself, and don't be afraid of hearing no or getting any rejections. Just keep working and keep doing what you're passionate about, and one day everything will work out.
And on that note, Warsan Hagi-Yusuf, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Okay?
Thank you for having me on the show. It was a pleasure.
It has been my pleasure. Bye, sweetie.
Bye.